The Curse of Oak Island Season 12, Episode 12 Recap. The team follows the treasure map. In the latest episode of The Curse of Oak Island, titled Mapping It Out, the team embarks on a series of explorations that blend historical intrigue with hands-on investigation. The episode opens with a war room meeting featuring the core team alongside Vanessa Lucido of Rossi Equipment. The primary focus is on the logistics of deploying new caissons to further their excavation efforts. While specific timelines remain undetermined, the discussion shows the team's commitment to advancing their search operations to finally get to the elusive treasure. Transitioning to Lot 5, the team examines a stone foundation where they uncover fragments of glass and brick. Notably, key team members are absent from this discovery, leaving the interpretation of these artifacts open-ended. The findings hint at historical human activity, prompting questions about their origin and significance. The search for the vault continues in the swamp. The swamp continues to be a focal point, with the team persisting in investigating a well-like structure they speculate could be a vault. Multiple wooden fragments are retrieved, leading to the involvement of geoscientist Dr. Ian Spooner. Upon examination, Dr. Spooner provides insights into the possible age and origin of the wood, though definitive conclusions remain elusive. At this point, the swamp has yet to produce any tangible results, and the team previously believed the treasure was unlikely to be in that area of the island. Rediscovering the historical Blair treasure map. Most of the episode is dedicated to a war room discussion about a historical treasure map. The team recounts how William B. Goodwin once interacted with an individual possessing an Oak Island treasure map. Although the original has been lost, Goodwin's recreated version from memory becomes a point of interest. Despite uncertainties surrounding its accuracy, the team is optimistic that this map could guide them closer to the elusive treasure. Guided by the recreated map, the team ventures to Lot 1, searching for specific stone markers described therein. They quickly identify rocks bearing distinctive features, such as well-defined X's and square shapes. One particular stone, dubbed the Lightning Stone, becomes a focal point. Metal detection expert Gary Drayton surveys the area around this stone and uncovers an iron artifact. He tentatively identifies it as a tool potentially used in historical treasure tunneling, a claim that excites the team's historian and fuels further speculation. As the episode concludes, anticipation builds for subsequent explorations on the mysterious island. The team plans to conduct a cross-sectional analysis of the recently discovered wooden fragments, which could lead to the treasure. Beneath the swaying canopy of oaks and whispering winds of Nova Scotia, Oak Island loomed with centuries of mystery. Legend spoke of buried treasure, booby traps, and a curse that claimed the lives of 7 before the treasure could be uncovered. For Rick and Marty Lagina, this wasn't just a tale, it was a lifelong quest. And now, with a centuries-old treasure map newly unearthed from the archives of a forgotten European monastery, the Lagina brothers and their team were closer than ever to unlocking the island's secrets. The map was unlike any they had encountered before. It wasn't drawn on parchment or brittle paper, but on cured animal hide, etched with faded ink and sealed with a crimson wax emblem bearing the cross of the Knights Templar. It had surfaced in the private collection of a French historian who had contacted the Oak Island team after recognizing symbols similar to those Rick had discussed in a recent documentary. Craig Tester stood with his arms crossed in the war room, eyes locked on the map pinned to the display table. "Look at these coordinates," he said, tapping a point marked with a triangle and the Latin inscription, Lux in Tenebris, light in darkness. It lines up almost perfectly with the swamp. Marty, ever the skeptic, leaned in. "We've been over that swamp a dozen times. What makes this spot different?" Jack Begley couldn't hide his excitement. "This symbol here, it's the rose cross used by both the Rosicrucians and Templars. It could be marking a specific chamber, maybe even an entrance hidden beneath the muck." Rick nodded thoughtfully. "We've always suspected the swamp was man-made. If this map is authentic, we may have been digging around the wrong edges this whole time." The team mobilized fast. With metal detectors, sonar imaging equipment, and heavy-duty excavation gear, they returned to the swamp, zeroing in on the exact coordinates from the map. As the machines rumbled to life and probes were inserted into the ground, Gary Drayton swept his detector across the area, his practiced eyes scanning the screen. "Now that's what I'm talking about," Gary shouted. "We've got something deep, real deep, almost 10 feet under." Excavation began immediately, with Billy Gerhardt manning the backhoe. Mud splattered and thick peat peeled away as the team dug steadily downward. The smell of the swamp, earthy and sour, hung in the air. Then, just as the sun began to sink behind the tree line, the bucket hit something hard. Clang! "Stop the dig," Marty called. The crew approached the pit, peering down to find what looked like a large flat slab, stone, weathered and strangely carved. As they cleared the dirt, the unmistakable pattern of concentric circles emerged, surrounding an inscription in a dead language. "I think it's Ogham," said Doug Crowell, holding up his phone. "An ancient Celtic script. Give me a second. It could be a phrase." As Doug deciphered the markings, Jack spotted something nestled beside the stone, a rusted but intact metal box. Carefully, they lifted it out. The box creaked as Rick slowly opened it. Inside were scrolls, 2 of them protected in wax-sealed glass tubes. One bore a wax emblem matching the one on the treasure map, and the other contained what looked like detailed instructions. Doug unrolled it and began reading aloud. "The path of 3. First the swamp, then the tree beneath the stone where spirits flee. Light the flame and truth shall see." "It's a riddle," Rick murmured. "The path of 3. We've found the swamp. Now the tree." They scanned the map again. Another symbol, a tree with a cross at its base, was marked northwest of their current location, near the ancient pine stumps where logs had once been placed to conceal the money pit. Energized by their find, the team split into 2 groups, one to study the new chamber beneath the swamp and the other to locate the tree. As night fell and lanterns were lit, Rick led the trek toward the tree site. While the tree itself was long gone, ground-penetrating radar revealed a peculiar cavity beneath the soil. Digging carefully, they unearthed another stone slab, this one cracked and bearing the image of a serpent eating its tail, the Ouroboros. "What if these aren't just markers?" Rick said. "What if they're keys, steps in a ritual?" Back at the swamp, the rest of the crew had made a discovery of their own. The concentric stone wasn't just decorative, it was a lid. With effort, they managed to lift it, revealing a vertical shaft leading into darkness. They lowered a camera into the hole. At first, it was murky. Then the image cleared, revealing a small chamber with stone walls, shelves carved into the sides, and something glinting in the light. "Is that gold?" Marty whispered. They wouldn't know for sure until they could get someone down there safely. But one thing was certain, the treasure map wasn't just an old curiosity. It was a guide leading them through ancient riddles, forgotten languages, and layers of history deliberately concealed. The discovery had reawakened their sense of purpose. The swamp was no longer just a decoy, it was part of an intricate design. Later that evening, back in the war room, the team reviewed the footage, buzzing with energy. The camera had shown gold-like glimmers, Templar symbols, and another map etched into the stone wall of the chamber. Another clue, or perhaps the final piece. "The path of 3, Rick repeated. "Swamp, tree, stone. We've followed 2. The final piece must be under the 3rd marker." The next morning, they planned to follow the final clue etched on the 2nd scroll. It hinted at a fire ritual at dawn. For once, the show wasn't about speculation. It was about discovery, tangible and real. The map had not just led them to another theory, but to a moment of truth. If the curse of Oak Island was real, they were closer than anyone had come in centuries to challenging it. And if the legend held, only one more life needed to be claimed before the treasure was truly revealed.